Hello everyone, this is Design Phase Part 3, How to Create a Bound Pocket in a Lining. Now I have to say, this was one of the most challenging things I've done in a while. I completely screwed it up. This is perhaps the worst example of how to create a bound pocket that I've seen on YouTube at this point. Watch this video by all means, please. And then find a better video on how to do it. That's my suggestion. This is more of a demonstration of what not to do. I started off doing a round pocket, and I botched it so badly that I turned it into a square pocket, and I left perforations. Just all around, everything went wrong. And sometimes this happens when you're doing a leather project, and you have to make a choice. Can you live with the result? Or do you have to start over again, or just toss it all together? And I've done far too much at this point to justify just tossing it. I really didn't want to do it over again, so this is the result. Please enjoy. Guys, suck at doing this video stuff. I forgot to push record, but I started my stitching right here at this hole, and I'm running my stitching all the way down this line that I created. And I'm ending up at the other hole, and the needle's all the way down in, so I can lift my foot and then rotate it. I'm going to rotate it like this, so I can get a straight line down to the next hole. Put my foot down, and I'm going to let it hit right in that next line, just like so. My foot's all the way down again, rotate it again, and I'm going to line it up and sew right to the next dot right here. You can see it, okay? And hope it doesn't screw up on me. Because this machine, I've had problems with it screwing up. Now, lamb hide is one of the is a leather that's thin enough that you can actually sew it with a regular machine and a leather needle generally, unless you have a really crappy sewing machine. I mean, really crappy, the kind that you can't give away to family or friends without them giving you weird looks. Looks like my threading's a little bit stuck. Dang it! I can feel it. It's tugging on me. It's not sewing well. So I have to stop right here. I have no choice and lift it up and figure out what's wrong. So that whenever it does that, that means it's not pulling the thread through properly. There you go. Look at that. What a mess. This is why I don't sew. Okay, I'm going to have to correct this. I have no choice. This is so bad I have to redo it. Pull out a seam ripper and go to town on it. I'm just going to stop it. There's no point. You know what I'm going to do is basically take a seam ripper and just rip it all out. So there you go. I'll come back. Okay, so this is a project I started earlier, and I don't know if you can see it from the video, but I started my sewing here, and it got all bunched up right about there. You can see it right here. I don't know if you can zoom in. I'll bring it up to there and see if I can show you. That's where it got all bunched up right there. So I'm going to try to salvage it only because this is going to get inverted in anyway. But I've clamped the project to hold the piece into place. This won't really be seen. What I'm worried about is that it created holes that are too close together and are now perforated. And that can be a bit of a problem if it were in any other situation. You do not want a perforated area because then it can just, like when you rip a Ziploc bag or something, that's what it would be like. So I'm going to try to sew this again, If it doesn't work the second time, it may be because this is a little bit stiff since I put the Resolene on it. That may be the reason why it's having a problem. I did readjust my machine to try and get it to work this time, so let's see if it does. I've had really bad luck with this machine, if I'm being honest. I wish I had a better one, but I don't. Wish I'd bought something different, but I didn't. Okay, so I'm going to start off right in the same hole. If I can see it here. Right there's the dot. And we'll try it one more time. If not, I may have to do this by hand. Okay, it's pulling it forward a little bit, so I got to step it back just a little, right there. I got to get this as close as possible so that it goes into the same holes. Because if it doesn't go into the same holes, I'm going to have a bit of a problem. Still not exactly where it needs to be, right there. Okay? So, see how this works out. I'm not using the pedal because this machine was designed for fast sewing, and you really don't want to try to fast sew leather. It doesn't normally work out very well. Okay. I've overstepped the hole a little bit. Hopefully it won't be a problem. Okay. I can look really quick and see, and so far it looks like it's sewing properly. I wish I could show that to you with the camera, but this camera is kind of a pain to try and do anything with once I move it. So far it's working the way it should. I would cross my fingers if I weren't worried about sewing into them or something, that it would keep sewing properly. But that's one of the flaws with this particular machine, is I'm constantly checking the tension on the thread because it has an old tension system that gets screwed up very easily. Okay, so far so good. Oop, I just knocked something over. Ah. Okay. Right into the same hole. And just for good measure, I'm going to sew a little bit further just to make sure that I have a nice solid stitch in place. There we go. So far so good. And it pulls out right, which is nice. That means, yeah, it was my seam ripper. That's what flew out. Thankfully, I buy them by the dozen practically because they're so cheaply made nowadays. So I've got another one. Come on, there we go. Okay, so the first part of the sewing is done. Can unclamp this. So what we got here is, as you can see, I got a bunch of danglers. I call them danglers. That's just the best term for them. Question is, where's, let's see, pull this one through first, because it was the last one. Tie it off. Always tie it off, and I usually do a square knot. I don't know a better way than that. Although there is this glue that some people use, that they'll tie it off and they'll put like a little dab of glue on it. That's not a bad way to go. And if you don't know what glue to use, just use super glue. Super glue seems to be good for this kind of stuff. So now I got to fix this part here. It's like it got folded up inside of itself here. In this case, it doesn't really matter which way I pull the thread because both sides of this project right here are going to be hidden. So I can pull it to either side. And when you're dealing with black thread, if I'm being honest, it's usually a better idea to pull it to this side. But I'm doing it the other side just because that's the way it worked out. Okay, so question is, where's that other thread doing out there? Still have another piece of thread laying over there. Huh. What's this one doing? That's not good. I'm not sure why I had a piece of thread that just broke. Okay, I'll just tie this off and hopefully it'll work out. As you can see, I don't sew very often. I hand sew most stuff because this machine, even though I bought it to do leather sewing, doesn't seem to want to do it. When you're buying a machine for leather sewing, it's really a good idea to make sure you get one that's actually rated for it, and not try to retrofit a regular sewing machine or even an industrial sewing machine like this that's designed for something else. Leather sewing machines are not the same as a regular sewing machine. Okay, so I've got this stitched. Now I take it over to my bench and I'll cut it out according to my pattern right there. Unfortunately, I forgot to start my video recording, so I didn't really get to show this, but what I basically did here is I took my X-Acto knife and I cut a line from, this is the center of the stitching square I made. I cut a line from here to there, and then I cut from that end of that line into the right at the square of the seam here, and then one from there to here on both sides to cut this opening, because that's what you're going to invert the leather into, is this opening right here. So what you end up with is something that looks like this. You've got a line through the middle, and then you have what looks like two Y's on the end. Let me zoom it out a little bit here. So you end up with what looks like two Y's on the end, and then a line in the middle. So now, once you do that, you're going to invert this into the opening. Literally fold it back into the opening you just created, trying to be really careful not to do any kind of transfer from that into this. And you're going to pull it through, try not to screw it up, to the other side, like so. So you've literally just inverted the pieces. You've taken originally you had the smooth to smooth, and when you turn it inside out, you're going to end up with the rough against the rough. And that's how you end up with your basic opening for your pocket right there. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to smooth it out. Try to make sure you don't have anything on your surface here that can get on the leather. You're going to create your welt like this, smooth it down, and then that is going to be the welt. If you have to, clamp it. Let me get my clamps that I just pulled off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clamp this welt into place, like so. So I'm going to need a bigger clamp. No, it's not big enough. So the welt is held into place. One there. I've got a little bit extra leather there. I'm just going to cut off, get it out of the way. It's going to get cut anyway, eventually. Come on. Doesn't want to cut. That's because I forgot to extend the... So I'm going to clamp the welt here on both sides, like so. And then you're going to end up there. I'll have to fix that later with ethanol, or try to anyway. You end up with your basic square right here. It's not perfect. Unfortunately, sewing into leather is a little bit of a challenge. That welt's a little bit too high right here, so I'm going to drop that down a little bit. I made that part of the welt a little bit too tall. I want to leave just a little bit of opening so you can get your fingers in there, like this, because that's what that's going to do. So you got the welt about the same on both sides, with a little bit of an opening. Smooth it, push it down like this, and I'm now ready to sew it. And what I'll do, once I sew it into the pocket, I'm going to take ethanol and try to clean up these black spots and redo the surface if I have to, because sometimes that happens. You get transfer from the other piece when you're doing two-tone if you're not careful. Even if you're careful, it happens anyway. And what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to start off by stitching here, right along this line here. I'll stitch one line right there. Then I'm going to stitch around up here. I'm going to stitch along here, and then along here, and then make the round for the pocket, like so. That's the basic plan. And the other piece of leather that I have, I'll stitch this part here without anything behind it. Just to stitch basically this right here, to stitch that in nice and tight right there. Because you can't stitch this line with the pocket under it, or you'll just end up sewing right through the whatever pocket you were going to be making. This has to be accessible for the pocket portion. So you do this line separately, then you do this line around and the actual pocket shape. So that's the plan. I'll take it back over to the sewing machine and get started. Okay, I'm going to start back about right where this here is going. There's going to be a line of threading right here. That's about where I want to start on this section right here. And you want to line up the edge of this kind of a thing about with this edge right here, so you know where that is going to be running. And it's nice having the different color to help with that. As you can see here, I'm a little bit far back, but it likes to move forward on you when you're doing this. So I'm going to move back a little bit further here than I should, because it'll pull it forward when I actually drop it down, like so. And that'll put it at just about the right spot. So I'm going to do the first stitch or two, try to keep it oriented the right direction, like so. And I'm going to stitch right along this line, like so, and hope it doesn't screw up. The one thing I don't like about Resolene is it gives a sort of plastic feel to the leather. So far so good. I'm going to drop it right there. Okay. Lift up. Pull it through. Come on. Sometimes it's a little stubborn. There we go. That's the first line. Right there. So that solidifies this little section right here. Let me get it in view here so you can see. That solidifies this portion of the flap. So this case I have to pull from the back, like so. And God, my camera's always out of view here. I'm going to pull what I do is I pull on this long strand and I pull the loop through right here. And I literally take my seam ripper, or the back side of it, and I pull the thread back up through, like so. That's just basic sewing 101. They teach in a sewing class, which I actually failed, if you can believe it. That's only because I got really lazy and I stopped going to class. And you'll fail it's inevitable that you'll fail a class if you stop going. It's virtually impossible to pass a class
if you stopped attending, no matter how good you've done. I don't even remember why I did. I was just young and stupid. It's still on my permanent record, as they say. In spite of my GPA being 3.98 or whatever, I got this class on there that's an F because I was too lazy to finish the class. Okay, I pulled this through now. Let's see here. I accidentally cut my thread, so I'm having to deal with a little shorter thread piece here. Making a square knot. Try it off, like so. I'll trim all this after the fact. It's better to have it all sticking out and big than to worry about it later. And worry about it later, then just try to do it now and then screw it up. Okay, so I've done a fairly poor job of tying off the end there, but you won't see it. So there we have it. That's the first stitch. The next stitch involves taking the other piece of leather that I have, and I'm going to stitch the other piece like this. I'm going to stitch a line running from here to there. I'm going to run across here, back down through here, and then I'm going to stitch the pocket in. That's the plan. Okay, so this was the other piece that goes to the back side, and I'm going to line it up so that it covers a little bit of the top portion right here. As you can see, that's where the welt is. I need to make sure that it stitches through this and gives me enough room for the pocket, because the pocket's going to be down underneath here. So that's the basic plan that I'm going to be working with, and I am going to clamp it because it seems to do better when you clamp it. It keeps it in place. So I'm going to clamp on the sides like so. On both sides I'm going to clamp it to keep that in place. There we go. So now the pocket's clamped in place. The thing I need to do is I need to find some way to mark the round so that I know where I'm stitching to. Because you don't want to stitch it badly. So what I'm going to do is take one of my marking pencils, what they call a stylus, and try to find something that will give me the basic round that I need. This is close. Actually, this is a little bit too big. Let's see if I can get something else. This is close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the round like so by taking a cup. See if I can show you here. I want to come down to about right there. So I'm going to do my stylus about right here. Just push down on it, make a little dot. Make another dot right here. Another dot right here. So that I have the basic round of that pocket there. And I'll come over to the other side and do the same thing. Make my dot right here. That's really, actually it's got to come down a little bit more. Right about there. That's my dot. One here. One here. And then one here. So that's the basic round of my pocket. I'm going to go down like this. Down through here. Down through here. Right through there. It's not a very big pocket. And I'm going to come up through here like this. Right like so. So that's my round of my pocket right there. Get it nice and marked so I can see. The threading will hide the the little marking I'm making, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So I'm going to actually start it here, stitch through there, along the back here, through here, and all the way around the round, like so. Let me get that in the view so you can see. So here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to start stitching here. I'm going to stitch right along here, right along here, right along here, all the way down the round like so, following this round, and then I'm going to come right back up to there, and that will create the pocket portion. And then after I've done that, then I will actually trim all of the leather stuff down, and that will have made a lining with a pocket in it. Future reference, the resin kind of screws up the lining material. It's not always a good idea to use it. Okay, so I'm going to start here as I've said. Make sure you can see it in the camera. Looks like you can. Right about there. I'm going to start a little bit further back, about right here. So I go stitch into that line right there. And I'm going to keep this about the same distance from this edge right here. See if you can see it. This is going to be close to that edge, right running along there for the uniformity, consistency. Okay, I got it in place. I'm going to cross over the end of that line. Dang it, it shifted on me a little bit. Keep this out of the way or your needle might split your thread and that'll cause a problem later on. Okay, I'm going to stitch right along that edge and hope that it doesn't screw up on me. Okay. It's still not far enough, but I might have to go one more line down. Just not far enough. There we go. That's a little bit higher than I wanted it, but it'll be okay. I'm going to try to pull this back a little bit so that it looks a little more consistent. I wanted it to be closer to that line, but it just didn't work out that way. I'm actually pushing this way, like here, to try and keep this in the right location, or where it's supposed to be. Oh, I just felt it. It's stuck. It's not moving on me. Dang it. This machine has caused me so many problems. Dang it. Right in the middle of stitching. Just lost my other seam ripper. The hapless seems, I don't know, what would you call a guy that's a seamstress? It's not a lost cause. I can still pull it through the back like this, tie it off, and then just start the line again. Let me show you. I had to pull it out prematurely, so I went ahead and pulled the thread through, and I'm going to tie it off, and I'm going to start right back where I ended and try to make it look like it's seamless when it isn't. This machine's kind of a pain like that. It does that all the time and causes problems, particularly with this kind of material. I have really bad luck with leather material sewing on this thing. I'm not even sure what happened, why it got locked up on me. Okay, and while I have this out, I might as well pull this one through as well. You can see it. And get this one tied off so that when I stitch around the round, I don't have this all tangled up in it. I like really nice long strands. It makes it easier to tie it off. This threading is actually special threading designed for canvas. It's made by a company called Cellrite. It's actually not bad. Okay, so let's see if this thing's going to work now, if it's going to come loose. Yeah, now it's nice and loose. Go figure. It only does it when I'm sewing, I guess. So I'm going to pick up where I was and keep stitching this direction. So I'm trying to get as close to that line as I can. Let's see. There we go. It's pretty close. Hold my thread so that it doesn't shift on me. Thread is really tight above. Okay. And we'll try to stitch it back in there. Okay. Seems to be moving correctly this time. Okay, it's a little bit out. That comes from having to stitch. So I'm going to try to connect right with the end of this line here. If you can see it, right there. I'm going to try to cross right where that line is, as close as I can, and then I'll do the round as I marked with my stylus. Like so. I hope it doesn't screw up on me. These lines are hard to see with that lighting. Oh, I'm feeling it bunching up on me. Oh, there it goes. It loosened up on me. I'm not making the round as quickly as I needed to, fortunately. It looks a little bit crappy, fortunately. Oh, there it goes again. This machine is an absolute pain. Oh, I'm going to have to pull it out again. Now, I'm not an expert on sewing machines, so I honestly don't know why it keeps doing that. That's one of the flaws with being an amateur and trying to do stuff like this. That you oftentimes encounter problems that you don't know how to fix. You know, and this machine, it has this problem so often, you'd think I would be an expert at fixing it by now, but I'm not. I'm going to tie this off. What the heck? I hope there's not a bird trying to nest in here, because there's bound to be a cat that's going to kill it soon. It's sad to say, I like cats, but they're killers. Okay. Pull this through. Try to anyway. I don't know if you can see that. It's really hard to see. But I'm just going to try to pull this loop through. I can see it. Okay. I don't know where this thread came from right here. The same thing happened on the other portion of this pocket that I'm doing. I ended up with some weird thread piece. I am butterfingers today. Bear in mind, I am an outright amateur, and that's why I'm having all these kind of problems. I think experts are better equipped for dealing with this stuff because they have a better setup and what have you. I'm not even sure where this came from right here. This line. It's like a thread sticking out here. Okay, so I have to pick up right here and keep sewing and hope it doesn't screw up again. I'm sure there are better ways to do this, I just don't know of any. Okay. See if I can find where I made those holes. Doing this by eye is not a very good idea. Okay, so I've just stitched right back into that line where I started. I'll stop it right there, like so. Pull it through, like I did all too soon. I mean, perfect timing. Pull this through, like so. Tie it off, and I will have made my basic pocket. So right now I'm just tying off these loose ends. I just cut through that one. Dang it. Didn't mean to do that. Whenever you have a real loose thread like that you just have literally cut through, what I do is I make loops in my thread, like my long thread. I'll literally just make a loop like this and make a square knot using loops. And I'll just move the loop over it, grab the thread, pull tight, and then I'll roll the loop the other way, grab the thread again, pull tight, and I just made a square knot. That's how you tie a square knot when you only have a really short piece, is by making loops in the longer piece. If you have two short pieces, well, you're screwed. Sorry, pal. Okay, doesn't look pretty, but you have a basic pocket now. I'm sure there's a lot better ways to do it. I did such a lousy job on it. Look, that looks worse than a child's work, man. To be perfectly honest with you, that's bad. That's really bad. I have no choice. I'm going to have to rip that out. I can't let that stand. The other one that I did was bad enough, but this one's so bad that it's not even... Yes. Okay, so here's me cutting out what I just made because I did such a bad job of it. And unfortunately, I've made a bunch of holes in it now. If you can't make a nice rounded pocket, make a square one. So I'm only going to go so far. I'm just going to go up to this place right here. And I'm just going to come down, make it square, run it across, make it square. Anybody can make a square pocket. Anybody. The round one, it just shows up when you screw it up too easily. It doesn't help that this green is just so bright. It really shows up. Now there's one other option, and it's kind of a cheat if you don't want to resew something like this. The other option is just to dye the green black and say screw it. Okay, so I've ripped this back to there. Do the same thing to this side. Come on. Try not to cut into your leather when you do this. Okay. So I'm just literally ripping the seam back far enough so that I can do a square pocket. Because I did such a horrible job on the round one. Okay, so back to there. The other solution is just to dye all of this black. I hate to say it, this is amateur work. This is the kind of stuff you're going to encounter as an amateur. Just no getting around it. I wish it weren't the case, but these are the challenges that you face as an amateur. When you don't know what you're doing, you make mistakes, and sometimes you have to decide, are you willing to live with the mistake or not? If you're not willing to live with it, then fix it. If it's functional and you're willing to live with the mistake, so be it. If you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't matter. And more often than not, if you're an amateur, you're doing it for yourself anyway. So, you're the only one that really needs to worry about it. This little thread piece here just isn't long enough to do my square knot idea. Oh boy. Screw it. This is one time when I have to pull out a little bit more so that it's a little bit longer. Literally have to restitch all of this over again because I couldn't make a round pocket. That's pretty pathetic. Really good at stitching straight lines, just not round ones. Okay, fold it the other way now. It doesn't want to, but I'll manage it. There we go. Yes. Finally. Okay, so I'm literally going to restitch this. I'm going to do it straight this time. Just a straight square pocket. This will be inside. I'm not going to worry about it. You won't see it. So, well, you'll see it, but it won't be like real obvious or anything. Okay, I'm going to hold my thread into place. Get it going. And hope it doesn't screw up this time. So, I'm going to go down and make it square this time. So I'm going to go straight down Hope it doesn't bunch up on me. Come on. About right there. Actually, a little bit further. Ah, crap. He just bunched up. On the worst possible place, too. Right at the corner. I'm having really bad luck today. Look at that. What a mess. What a mess. Crap. I don't even know where this one's from. I guess that's the one I'm supposed to be doing it to. Sorry guys, I wish I could have had everything just work out perfectly and beautifully with no problems. But unfortunately, that's not the way it's going. And sometimes that's the way it works out. You just have to have the patience and the wherewithal to persevere. Don't let it get you down, just keep going. You know, even if it doesn't turn out perfect, you've learned a lesson from the situation. A valuable lesson. That sewing sucks. That's not really the lesson, but, you know, it sounded funny to me. Okay, so I'm going to tie off this one here, since I have to now. No choice in the matter. I don't like tying off at a corner. Really a bad design element to have a corner be just a tie point like this. But I don't have any choice in the matter at this point. I have to. Okay, come on. And I gotta cut off this extra thing, whatever it is. So there, I got my square mark. What I'll do is I'll start stitching there and just run across. And hopefully it'll actually work this time. I don't have a problem. Ay, ay, ay. Actually, I'm going to start up to about right here, and I'm going to come down and remake that corner, just for the sake of safety. Because I really don't like, as I say, I don't like tying off on a corner like that. Just has a way of being a problem down the road. So I'm going to start off about right here, stitch down, right into that corner, get that thread out of the way so I don't split it, cap it, run it around here, and run straight across, like so. What I don't understand is why they make these seam rippers round. Look at this thing. This is rolling all over the place, man. It literally won't stay in place. Why don't they make one that's square-ish, that doesn't roll around like crazy? Seriously. Bad design. Okay. Hope you can see this, because I definitely want to do it again. I'm going to cut straight across and actually make a square pocket. Forget the round pocket. It didn't work out. And I know I'm going to have some perforations that look like crap, but sometimes you just have to cut your losses and say, okay, I'm obviously not going to be able to do a square pocket. I'm in a round pocket. I'm getting confused. Do I need to go one more spot? I think so. There we go. Please tell me it didn't just bunch up again. Yeah, it did. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A very long 10. How many times am I going to have to cut this? This machine is definitely going to go. Okay, so here I am tying it off again. Hopefully you won't have this many problems when you get around to doing this. Seriously. Okay. See that? I got these loops here. Not sure why I did this. Usually when you have something like that, it's because there's a tension problem. Trying to pull that loop through to tighten it up like so that you don't have a loose thread, because it didn't set the tension right. The tension feels strong. Got to be really careful on your tension when you're using these older machines. They are notorious for getting off. And I don't know that they've ever figured out a better solution for it. Although I've used other types of machines that aren't Singer, and they seem to do a better job of it. I mean, I really like the Pfaff and the New Home and the Berninas. But, I mean, that's for people who have money that can afford it. So I'm just tying off this loose thread there. Now I'll run up from here to there again and hope it doesn't screw up. Why is it tension so loose? Shouldn't be that loose. Okay. There we go. One more time. Once more into the breach, dear friends, as they say. Okay. Okay. Please, please, please work this time. Please. There we go. I only had to tie it off, what, 6, 7, 8 times? Lost count. Okay. And there you have a square pocket. Basic square pocket. I prefer the round pockets. I just can't seem to make one. Okay, tie off your thread. And if you don't like the result, just pitch it across the room, as I've said in the past. Just kidding. Done all this work, you're definitely going to keep it now. Okay. all butterfingers today. Cannot seem to tie off even a single knot. Okay. It is definitely not pretty. Sorry guys, I did such a bad job on this. I wish it weren't the case. But that's the back side. What I do now is I'll have to trim this. Trim this, and then trim this all off. Take off all that excess. I'll trim all along the back here. Take off all of this excess so I don't have this big gaping mass behind the pocket. And that is the basic square pocket right there. So it'll fit on there, and you'll be able to slide a few fingers in there for whatever it is you're going to put in there. I basically created it for like toothpicks. You really can't put much in a little pocket like that. So the first thing I need to do is see if I can fix this black crap all over it. Okay? Thank you for watching my extremely inept attempt at creating a pocket. Thank you so much for your patience as well. Right, now that I've made my square pocket, I need to cut off all of this extra right here. I don't need all of this extra crap in here. So I'm just going to cut it, trying not to cut through the lining, being very careful that this is far enough away that it doesn't pose a problem. Cut through there, like so. Fold this over. And cut through here. Right along that line, like so. And then I'm going to cut here, same thing. And one more spot right here. And there you have it. I now have trimmed the back part of that. Probably need to trim that one a little better right there. I don't know what happened. I didn't get it all. So I'll retrim that little section, make it a little bit more square. Try not to cut into this. So there you have your very basic square pocket. It'll now set right on here, like so. And it'll get glued into there and provide just a little tiny pocket on the inside for like toothpicks or whatever you might want in there. Just like so. Okay? So, there we have it. Now I'm going to have to go and over and see if I can clean up these black spots. That's what I'm going to do right now. There's a chance when I do this that it'll screw up the green. That is a very distinct possibility, but I have to try because it really doesn't look very good having these black spots all over there. I'd rather dye this whole thing black than have these black spots on there actually. So that's what I'm going to do now. Before I even start working on this right here, I'm going to run a little test of this ethanol that I just dipped on a little section that it doesn't matter and see what's going to happen when I try to do this. As you can see there, it does strip some of it, but it looks like it's not running it. So I can probably use ethanol on there for an application or two and still be okay. That's what I need to know. But it does pull up when I use the ethanol. That's to be expected. The question is, will it pull up the black without running the green? That's what I'm not sure on at this point. Very light touch, just to try and pull it up, just like so. See that? So I managed to pick up most of it. Let's try the little part there. It's a little bit right in here. Just going to try to pull up without running it. See, it does lighten it a little bit, but it hasn't ruined it at this point. One more application right here. Just lightly touch that black and try to pick it up. Okay. Got a little bit of a smudge there as well. And you can see it is lightening it in those areas, but it's not running it. I can still redo the coating a little bit. And I just pick that up. And now we'll see if I can just lay down a little bit of dye, just a very light coat of it, in order to fix those few areas. And it's possible it won't. So I'm going to test it first here and see what will happen if I do just a little bit of dye. Can I do just a little bit or not? Is it even possible just to do a little? No, it's not. So I can't touch this up without running it. See there? I can put just a little dot on there and just sort of smooth it in, and that's about my best option. Just a light dot of it, just lightly touching it up. And it'll still show a little bit, but you know, yeah, that's about as good as I can get it. So I have to decide whether or not I can live with that or not. And so it's going to be on the inside, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it. That's the way it goes. And so I now have my pocket. I'm ready now to take this and actually put it on the main pouch. Before I do that though, I do want to do this little spot right here. Just a little bit. The other option is to do another coat of green on this, and that's not a bad way to go. You could do that. That would be another solution. So there we have our basic pocket. As you can see, very small pocket. You'd use, like I said, for very small things. And the reason why I like round pockets, it's easier to dig stuff out of it than square pockets. But I'm done. I'm ready for it to go on to the project now. So that'll be the next video. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Right. Important thing to bear in mind, before you put the lining on the actual piece, you have to install part of the snap button. It's what they call the post and stud portion of the button. Has to be installed into the leather pouch or case before you put the lining on, because it's actually going to be underneath the lining. The other part of the button, what they call the cap and post, will be put on after you put the lining in place. So one goes under the lining, the other one goes over the lining. This is an important thing to know. So the next video I'm going to show you is how to install the post and stud portion of the button prior to put the lining on.